Today's meeting, Monday, November 25th, meeting of the Town Council. We have a quorum. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
James Morelli.
Here.
Toni Morrison.
Here.
Christopher Palmieri.
Here.
Jack Perry.
Here.
Jennifer Klock.
Here.
Michael Del Santo.
Present.
Valerie DiPaolo. William Dietzick.
Here.
Paul Chaplinsky.
Here. Can we please all stand for the prayer and the flag salute?
Heavenly Father, may we consider the people of Southington and always render what is right and just for our citizens. Help us to be compassionate and caring for each individual while still seeking what is appropriate for the entire community. Give us wisdom and guidance. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Okay, we're looking for a motion to approve the meeting minutes from our last meeting.
So moved.
Second?
We have a motion and a second on the table. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay. Jim, Jack, just to confirm, you're voting to approve, right?
That is correct. I know there's a delay.
Yeah, sorry about that. I'll try to give you a little bit more time on that. Okay, and we have one abstention from Jim, so it's 7-0-1. Did I get that right, Mike? Okay. Now we are looking for a presentation, Mr. Manager, on the revaluation. Do you want to intro that?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. These are all kind of, we have with us tonight our assessor, Teresa Babin. She's going to present to us every 5 years. The state of Connecticut requires us to do a revaluation. So sometimes it scares some folks, but it really is nothing scary. And then I'm also going to ask her to give a quick update on the personal property audit that everybody loves talking about so much. Good news, just to, break it. And Mrs. Babin.
Hello.
Hi, Teresa. Good evening.
Okay, T and 6489. Okay. Hi, good evening.
Alice, can somebody shut the light, please?
It's just going to be a quick,
Thank you.
Bring you guys up to date. Good evening, sorry, everybody. Bring everybody up to date on the revaluation that is going to be happening effective for the 2025 grand list. So state statute mandates that every municipality has to have a revaluation every 5 years. And every 10 years, there has to be an internal measure and list of every property in town. The purpose of the revaluation is to get rid of some of the inequities that may have developed since the last revaluation. Sometimes commercial properties are pulling more weight than they should, sometimes vice versa. Sometimes ranch sales are higher than colonial sales. And so what the revaluation is going to do is look at the property sales in Southington. They have been off the charts, and they are going to be looking at property improvements that have taken place in Southington, and they are going to do a statistical study to determine it's a couple of assessment terms, a PRD and a COD. It's a price-related differential, and the coefficient of dispersion measures the inequity between types of homes and neighborhoods, and there are acceptable values that are mandated by the state, so they have to keep running those statistical equations and studies until the rates come into an acceptable range per the state. And there's the state statute reference if anybody wants to look that up. So our last reval was effective with the 2020 grand list, and if everyone remembers, that was essentially the beginning of 2020 was the beginning of the COVID pandemic. And so if we're looking at sales of properties in Southington, since then, they have all been after the onset of the COVID pandemic. So many New York residents were trying to, get out of the city, and we found a large influx of New York residents coming into Connecticut. A lot of them stayed down in, Fairfield County, but there were a significant amount of them that made it up this far and probably even farther north into Connecticut. But that meant there was a high demand and not as much supply was required. So there were bidding wars, sale prices skyrocketed. You were seeing homes sell for sometimes only $20,000 over ask price, but they got as high as $80,000, $85,000, $90,000 over ask. And so that is, and we were expecting a market correction at some point, but we haven't seen that really yet. So the values of the homes are increased compared to the last revaluation of 2020. So the home assessment is based on 70% of market value, and we are going to find with these statistical studies that the market value of home prices in Southington is crazy high. So we need to have everybody expect their assessments to jump drastically. And I have an employee that actually lives in Wallingford, and they just got a letter from the mayor explaining, I don't know if they got out in front of it, like I'm trying to do, to prepare people for the inevitability of the assessments rising so drastically, but they just sent out a letter to their residents explaining exactly what I'm saying right now. The home prices are off the charts, and everybody's home values are going to increase. They have increased. So these people in Wallingford, and I guess in North Haven also, their revaluation must be effective with the 2024 grand list. So they're about a year ahead of us. And apparently the residents in those towns, once they received those notices of increase, lost their minds. And there was, public outrage, and everybody was just in disbelief. But I'm wondering, and I can't speak to it one way or the other, but I'm hoping that by me getting in front of it and notifying the council at least that this is going to happen, hopefully if you get phone calls from constituents, that you'll be able to explain to them that this is the process. But what we want to stress, I can't stress it enough, is to, when you get these increased notices as a result of the revaluation, you cannot take your new assessment and use the current mill rate that we have right now. Our new mill rate for the reval year will not get set until May of 2026. So that's the important thing to take away from this. If you take away nothing else, when they see that their assessment may increase $100,000, and people understandably might get a little nervous about that, but they have to understand that an increase in the assessment of the properties is surely going to reduce the mill rate, because the amount of money the town needs to run is still the same. So if the assessments go up in order to get that same budgetary allowance, you're going to decrease your mill rate to offset that. How much that decrease is, we won't know until May of 26. So behind the scenes, to get ready for this revaluation, we in the assessor's office have worked with the IT department, and we have gotten Municipal Valuations is the successful bidder for our revaluation for this go-around. They are located in Fairfield, and they will be doing the computer work remotely. So we had to work with IT in order to get them some desktop login credentials and workstations set up. We have been working with Munival to draft a press release as well as a data mailer. That data mailer will be going out shortly. I do have a time timeline coming up. But we have gotten a press release to go to the local newspapers. I'm hoping somebody picks up on it and might give me a call for some details that they can put in some sort of news item in the paper or online. The town website is going to be updated as frequently as possible. The town TV station, Kathy, we still have that? The town TV station? We don't, oh, darn. That was a good way to keep the information fresh as well. So I have already obtained badge identification information as well as vehicle information for all of the data collectors that will be out in the field. I have provided that information already to the town manager's office and the Southington Police Department so that if residents see some vehicles or some individuals roaming the neighborhoods, they can call either the town manager's office, the assessor's office, the police department, and we will be able to confirm, that there are people in their neighborhood. They'll be able to tell with the vehicles for sure because they're going to have window flags and magnets that identify them as a contractor for the town. So there shouldn't be any question as to whether these people are legit or not. And we have also been keeping track, we do every year, but we keep track of and report all the property sales to the state of Connecticut, the Department of the Office of Policy and Management. So all that information is going to be compiled and worked with to get those PRDs and CODs that I had mentioned earlier. The public-facing activity that will be happening soon it starts with the data mailers that are going to be sent to every residential property by mid-December. So the data mailers have already been drafted. They just need to run them through our CAMA system, and they're going to list a bunch of items on the data mailer. It's going to list, 4 bedrooms, 2.5 bathrooms, how many rooms total, all those data points will be pulled out of our ownership database and provided on this data mailer. And if there are changes, we encourage the residents to make those changes or corrections on the data mailer and turn those back in to the revaluation company. Those changes will be updated in the database. There's going to be a box for no change, so if that data mailer looks like everything is correct on there and there's nothing that we have to update, you can just check the box for no change and send that in to us. If the form is not returned, that property will most likely be flagged for internal inspection. So that's going to be one of the red flags to determine which properties get inspected with boots on the ground. So the data collector is going to ring the doorbell, knock on the door. As I mentioned, their vehicles will be marked with a magnet or a window flag. The collectors are going to have lanyards around their neck that show photo identification that indicates they are a contractor with the town. The data collectors will be carrying tablets, and on those tablets, there's going to be a letter of introduction that I have signed, and there's also going to be a process, description of the process and the expectations. Expectations the data collector has of the resident, and also the expectations that the resident should have of the data collectors to, conduct themselves in a professional manner and not do anything out of line, but stick to what they're there for. So the timetable is, like I said, we are going to be mailing out those data mailers. They're going to be coming out in the next couple of weeks. The initial change notices, so between now and the end of November next year, all of the data changes are going to be made in our CAMA system. All of the internal inspections that we are going to need to conduct should have been done. And the residents will get initial change notices by the end of November 2025, next year. Those initial change notices are going to suggest what their new updated assessment is going to be. And if the resident disagrees with that, and it can't just be, it's too high. The resident needs to come in with a reason as to why they think the value of their home is incorrect. So they have to come in with proof of, homes in the neighborhood that are similar to mine, for instance, are only being valued at this much. And it could be that changes need to be made in our database. Maybe they were not, they didn't return the data mailer. Maybe there was, we had an incorrect external measurement of the home. And we ask for that too, to be confirmed. If they didn't, and now they're coming in and they're saying, well, you have my house at 400 square feet larger than it is, we obviously want to correct that, so we will make those changes. So there will be an opportunity for informal hearings that the residents can have. I'm not sure if they're going to be over the phone or in person. I know the last reval, they were over the phone. But I'm thinking that these are going to be in person. So we are going to have the informal hearings sometime the month of December. They should all be done before the Christmas holiday of 2025. I, by state statute, have to sign the grand list no later than January 31st of 2026. And state statute says that we have to send out the results of the hearing notice. So if you did call or if you did come in for an informal hearing and a change was made, we're going to send you a secondary notice that says, okay, as a result of the informal hearing, we have changed your assessment to X. And those notices need to go out no later than February 10th. Which brings us to the Board of Assessment Appeals. They will be looking for applications, or I should say the Assessor's Office will be looking for applications to the Board of Assessment Appeals no later than February 20th of 2026. And the board is going to meet no later than March 20th, 2026. And how many days of meetings they have is going to depend on how many appeals we get. So typically, they only have one day of meetings on a Thursday from 4 to 8. But on a reval year, they expect that there's going to be significantly higher amount of appeals, so they schedule accordingly. And if the Board of Assessment Appeals is unable to get that assessment to a mutually agreed upon value, the next thing that resident can do is take that case to Superior Court, and that appeal case would need to be filed no later than 2 months after the Board of Assessment makes their decision. And these are all deadlines that are mandated by state statute. So if you come in the day after February, let's say you come in February 21st and you want to submit an application for appeal, we will be unable to accept that. So these dates are very important, and we encourage people to pay attention to them. And in our office, we will do whatever we can to make the process easy. I'm going to have all the appeal forms on the website. As I mentioned, the website's going to be updated as frequently as possible. Kim is going to update the main page of the Southington website, and then I will also be updating the assessor website frequently.
So Teresa, there's a lot of information here. There's still a long process. This is just beginning.
Yes.
We're talking about stuff that's more than a year out.
Yes.
But I think the message for everybody here tonight, and correct me if I'm wrong, is you're going to start to hear from people.
Yes.
You're going to start to see people. Somebody might knock at your door to initiate a revaluation of what your own property might be. There's safeguards in place for identification. So if you're wondering if the person is legitimate, ask them for their identification. And my understanding is a private property owner does not have to let a revaluation person in their home.
That is
So they
correct.
have a choice of either accepting the person in to review the inside of their house or not. Is that correct?
That is correct. The only caveat to that would be if they do submit that data mailer back to us and it says, I don't have a finished basement, where our database says they do. In order
Right.
to remove that, we would need to gain access to confirm.
Correct. Okay, good. Thank you. So, and just, I would say, the other thing is that throughout all of this discussion, I know you alluded to it, but the fact that a person's assessment goes up does not necessarily mean their taxes the next year go up accordingly. Their taxes could be flat, they could go down. It all depends on what the average increase is and what the spending for the town is at that time. So if your assessment goes up or you hear it's going up, don't fret right away. I think, that all will kind of come out and play out as time goes. With the increased value of our grand list, we obviously will lower the mill rate accordingly to match what the spending is for the town.
Right.
So, okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Chris?
Yes, and actually, just to follow up on that, Teresa, first of all, fantastic job. So thorough, detailed, and pretty much all the questions that people probably have are answered in this presentation. So, great job. You mentioned specifically, as Paul was saying, about the mill rate and taxes. So can you just share with the residents how the what assessment will be used for their taxes July 1st, 2025? Because you mentioned the assessment rate, the mill rate won't be in effect until 2026.
Right.
So how about July 1st, 2025?
So for this July, we are in the process now of getting the 2024 grand list settled and making sure everything is priced correctly. And there's three components. There's the real estate component, personal property, and motor vehicle. So all of that has to be valued by the assessor's office. I have to sign that grand list no later than January 31st of 2025. So just 2 short months from now, I have to have all that work done. And I did last year, I did sign a little bit earlier, so I'm hoping to do that again this year. Maybe within the first 2 weeks of January, I'd have that grand list signed. The mill rate would then be set in May, and that tax bill will come due this coming July 1st of
But to
2025.
clarify, the revaluation that you're doing will not impact this upcoming May's
Correct.
taxes. So this upcoming May 2025,
That's what you just.
if somebody comes into your home in the first quarter, the output of that will not take effect next year. Yep. Okay.
And then just a suggestion, because this impacts so many people, you've got a great outreach here. Our phone robo system, I think this is a perfect example of how to send out a phone message to our residents. It's a revaluation year. More information can be found right on the website. You know, you can put whatever you want there with the details, but anything that's pertinent, I think it gets right in everyone's homes and is a great way to communicate something so it's going to have such a great impact on the community.
And maybe in the fall, after July collections are over, then we can start talking about the next, yeah.
And Teresa, if people have questions on this throughout the period, can they call your office?
Absolutely.
Very good.
Paul, just to add, may I speak?
Yes, please.
Just to add to Chris, great job. I mean, I took 2 weeks of macroeconomics my freshman year in college before I dropped it because I didn't know what was going on. But this presentation is perfect. If we can get a video of just this presentation and put that on the website, you know, the 10 minutes that you spoke, I mean, it's from people like me to dumb it down just the way you did was perfect.
Yep.
So I understand it. You know, people should not fret. It's going to happen, and it's a good thing, unfortunately, when assessments go up.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But thank you. Good
You're welcome.
presentation.
Thanks.
Very
Well, look at it another way, Mike. Your net worth goes up.
good. That's right. Right. I'm like
You
LeBron
may
James
be
now.
cash poor, but you're asset rich.
Yep.
Okay, other questions for Teresa? I think you had another update, right?
I didn't think so, but I do, yes.
Okay. Thank you,
Yeah,
Teresa.
Alex came into the office today, and I had a question for him, and we discussed briefly the personal property audit program that I have been working on. We're only halfway through with the number of audits that are going to be conducted. And the program right now, only halfway through, has paid for itself almost 5 times over. So we have billed out an additional $135,000 in additional taxes only. That doesn't include any of the interest that would also be due on the 2 older years. And that's what we've collected. We've billed out $162,000, so there's only about $27,000 outstanding at this point, but those are the ones that have been most recently issued bills. They've all been doing a great job of getting those bills paid within the 30 days, and I have not had one call of complaint or any kind of issues with the way the audit was conducted. There have been two occurrences, 3 occurrences where there was found to be no additional tax money due. So what they actually submitted was the correct numbers. So we just keep plugging away, and it's kind of like every week I get 1 or 2 more to add to the system. So I think it's going really well. And if you have any questions about that, I could try and answer.
That's great. Wonderful. Any questions on that? Okay.
Okay.
Wonderful. Thanks
Thank
for
you.
the great presentation
You're welcome.
today, Teresa, and the good news on the taxes.
Good job.
Okay. We'll open it up now for item 4, councilperson communications. Tony?
Yeah, on Saturday night, town manager and I attended a 40-year celebration for the Gishrei the Gishrei Shalom Jewish congregation. And it was their 40th anniversary. They hold services at the Congregational Church. There's about 40 families. They're an excellent asset to the town. They do a lot for charity. They do a lot for the interfaith stuff. And it's a pleasure to have them here. And Alex and I made that point.
Good job.
Excellent. Thank you for attending that. Thanks, Alex, for attending. Okay. Others, maybe we could take a quick pause. How about for Jack, remote? Jack, is there anything that you had on councilperson communications?
No. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Jack. Chris?
Just to share with the public, we all got an email today from Dawn Maselli. I'm not sure if you saw it or not, but because it came kind of late. But the annual lighting of the Southington Town Green will take place December 6th at 5:30. So that's a Friday night. There's a contest where someone will, oh, there you go, you printed it out already. Well, you're quick. So that will be occurring if any resident is interested in that. Again, it's on the town green, on the mobile stage, December 6th at 5:30. Second item, in relationship to our community relations policy, I unfortunately heard from some of our town employees at the transfer station. I had to use it last weekend. And it's related to the same thing our policy covers, with just civility from the public. I know at times we've had Southington police officers here supporting that. So I actually shared. I said, I'm glad you mentioned that. We just adopted a policy. And, looking at it technically, the introduction reads, conduct orderly conduct among all the individuals in town buildings. So I have a couple quick changes. Maybe if we can add it to the agenda to make some changes, just to make sure it covers, I'd like to say, town operations and town property. I think that may be more inclusive. And I know that was our intent, but realistically reading it back, so I don't know, Mr. Chair, if you entertain.
I think that's administratively, we can make those changes. Yeah, you want to add that to agenda?
Is that all right?
Sure.
So I'll make.
Anybody opposed to that? Okay, you want to make the motion?
All right, I'll make a motion to add to the agenda, probably under old business item E, community relations policy.
I'll second that.
Okay. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so we'll add that as old business item E.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I was in favor of that as well.
Thanks, Jack. For the record, it's 8-0.
Okay. I don't know if you want, there wasn't a lot of action, but under special committees, we did have a Southern High School roof building committee meeting. I didn't even catch it earlier, or I would have said something earlier. If you'd like, I can add that to the agenda too and give a quick report.
Sure.
Up to you. All right, I'll make a motion to add under report of special committees, item C, SHS roof building committee.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Waiting for John.
Jack?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, great. Motion passes to add item C for special reports, SHS roof update.
All right, and the last one, it's kind of uncomfortable, but I would be remiss if I didn't mention it. I don't really, just looking maybe for some action from the council, maybe at a future meeting. But we've received communication from some residents, and I'm referencing an article in the Record Journal from Thursday, November 21st. The Connecticut State Elections Enforcement Commission had a hearing, and there was discussion about whether any state of Connecticut campaign laws were violated. So as a result of that, a town official agreed that he violated the state statute 9-602A and 9-621A. So I mean, it really comes back to an issue locally. So, I'm hoping maybe as a council we could put this on an agenda for a future meeting to discuss this further. I don't even think the state has completely concluded their investigation at this point, but I do think we would be remiss if we weren't doing our due diligence because, you know, we just went through an election. We know how important it is to be transparent and make sure the integrity of any election is clear to the residents. So maybe at a future meeting, we could.
If you would like to put it on tonight's agenda, Chris, we'll do that. If you want to, you've brought it up tonight, so let's deal with it tonight. What is 906, what's 9-602A? What's that violation?
I can look it
Okay.
up if you like.
So I'll entertain a motion to add it to the agenda if you would like. That would be what I would offer to you.
Yeah, I mean, I'd prefer to put it on the next meeting.
I'm not going to put it on future agendas, Chris, and drag this out. My preference would be if you would like to add it to the agenda tonight, since you've brought it up tonight, I'll offer you the option to add it to tonight's agenda.
All right, I'll make a motion to add under new business item C, discussion of the findings from the State Elections Enforcement Commission.
We have a motion to add discussion of findings of State Election Commission to the agenda under item C. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
We have a second from Jack and a motion from Chris. Any discussion on adding it to the agenda? Okay, hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, motion passes unanimously 8-0 to add discussion of findings for state elections. Okay, anything else, Chris?
Nope.
Excellent. Any other councilperson communications? Jim, please.
Since I don't have a report for the library on the schedule, I did want to say that we will be open on December 2nd, and we have a dedication day on December 7th at 10 o'clock in the morning. And I encourage everybody in town to go and check it out. It looks great.
And we received our CO 6 hours ago.
Wow.
He needs a mic. You have 2 mics. Can you please give Jim a mic? Thank you. Okay. Thank you. Okay, any other councilperson communications? Okay, hearing none, I just had a couple. 2 things, a follow-up from the Live Well Dementia Positive workshop that we had a few weeks back. I did hear from Live Well. The movie that was offered as a lead-in to those workshops was very well attended. And it's called Human Forever. And we received an email communication with the information about Human Forever, and it's all about dementia and living with dementia and families. I've passed that along to the town clerk. If anybody would like to learn about Human Forever, you can take a look at the town's meeting minutes for this meeting. We will have the flyer in there, and we will also post the flyer to our Facebook page. The movie is for free for any of the residents or any friends or family who would like to attend that. It will be at Live Well on December the 17th at 4:15 p.m. I suspect it's going to be well attended again, and there may be a potential in the future. I have reached out to the superintendent, Steve Medancy, regarding possibly having one at one of the schools and seeing if maybe the high school grade level parents may be interested, and I'll also ask the town manager to circulate the flyer to the Calendar House, please. And post it in the Calendar House and send it to the email distribution for the Calendar House, please. It's a wonderful opportunity to learn about dementia in our community, and the partnership with Live Well, I think, is great that we're going to continue to do this. Piggybacking on top of that, I do have some additional good news. As an introduction to that, on December the 9th, our next meeting, we will have Heidi Gill here from Live Well, who will give a 15 or 20-minute presentation about the details, as committed in our last meeting, about the details of the workshop that we did at Live Well and what it means for our community and the public / private partnership that we might be able to be involved in through our subcommittees and through town government, about how we can help here in Southington promote a dementia positive community. Okay, so there'll be a presentation at our next meeting on December 9th with more about that. Two other items, a few of us went on a tour of Quantum Bio, which is on DePaulo Drive. It was an amazing opportunity to see the recycling facility and the reclamation process for the food and scrap waste. Really, probably one of the most innovative electricity generating processes that I've seen, where we have an innovative private industry right here in Southington that is taking scrap food waste, primarily from grocery stores, and they are taking that and they are feeding that into a process that they have, and they are using bioorganisms to break that down and create a burnable gas, and that burnable gas then turns into electricity, which they are powering 8 sites here for the town, including our very own sewer plant. Really, really interesting tour. We're very happy that they offered the opportunity for us to go on that tour. I know Alex was there, I was there, and Bob Hammersley was there. And that was really eye-opening. So if anybody's interested in that, I'm sure sometime in the future they'd be willing to have you to check that out as well. And then the last thing was Councilman Del Santo and I had a great opportunity to visit some Girl Scouts this past week and represent the council and help the Girl Scouts. I think they were brownies, Mike, right?
Brownies,
The brownies were trying to work on getting a badge for government. And we went in there and did our best to tell them a little bit about local government. They had a wonderful observation that Mr. Del Santo looks a lot like their family members. And they mentioned he had no hair. So it was.
Asked you to take your hat off. They asked if Paul had hair. You have hair, we can't see under your hat. So.
But it was wonderful. Thank you to Stephanie Verderam for organizing that. We appreciate that. If there are other troops out there, Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, or otherwise, who want to learn about government, I'm sure many of us up here on the dais would be willing to offer our time to visit and say hello and have some dialogue. Okay. Let's move on to item 5, reports of special committees. Item A, Sewer Committee. Tony.
That's me. Yeah. All right. A few things, one of which is on the agenda tonight. 3 things. We completed a sort of first evaluation of the West Street pump station, which is the only pump station that hasn't been rehabbed or replaced in the last couple of years. Some work done checking it out. It's deeper than other stations, so it will be costed out at more than $1 million to do it, which, say, the 3 we've recently done were all under $1 million. So that's a significant investment. We're going to put it on hold for a while, as there's no urgency to proceed. It's working well. And especially we really don't want to put stuff into bonding, which it could be. It could be a referendum item. With the bonding guardrails that we have that restrict what we can do for bonding. That's the first thing. Second thing, we have a project to automate the putting of magnetite into the sewer system. Magnetite breaks down organic compounds, so it doesn't reach the rivers and eventually the ocean. And we're working on a bidding document for that to go through Planet Bids to get that organized. And finally, the thing that's on the agenda tonight is the gunnet repairs for the phosphorus building at the sewer plant. Certain areas on the 2 phosphorus tanks, which we put in recently, have had areas break up a little due to corrosion, and we need to repair them and then spray concrete, which is called a gunite process. We used ECIQC from Krog to get bids, as it's a fairly straightforward job. However, staff got back a proposal of work for $271,000, which was considered excessive. So the staff then consulted with Corrosion Probe, which is a vendor that has helped us on these projects in the past, and we got bids from 3 other vendors whom they regard as solid. We chose the lowest bid, which is PIM, after checking their references on concrete repairs and coating. And that bid is $99,800. We approved it to go to town council to hopefully be approved tonight. I will say a couple of things. There's no financial issues here per se, as the work will be funded out of existing sewer reserves. And secondly, the work is best done before mid-March because it's temperature dependent, and the temperatures need to be greater than 50 degrees. So sooner this is approved, the better the staff can plan the work. We're probably going to have some decent weather going forward, and if we don't, we can use the beginning of March. So it's important that it be approved tonight.
Thank you, Tony. And thanks for the diligence on keeping an eye on the bids and ensuring that we're getting the lowest possible bid.
Oh, I give all credit to our staff.
Excellent. Thank you to the staff. Any other comments or questions on sewer? Okay, hearing none. Item B, apple harvest. Chris?
Just a couple quick updates. First of all, we hope to have a financial report. As you know, we prepare that for the council, hopefully by the January meeting. There's still some outstanding expenses and revenues that we're working through, but hopefully by January, we'll be able to give a full report. Overall, for the 55th Apple Harvest Festival, our sponsorships, just a huge thanks again. We collected $63,325 in sponsorships. This is from local businesses and groups, so we appreciate all their contributions that helped make the festival as successful as it was. The other thing is, I think the council's aware, we have really 3 staff members that are affiliated with the festival. We have our sponsorship coordinator, who's responsible for garnering all our sponsors. We have an assistant festival coordinator, and we have our festival coordinator. 2 of the 3 have, our assistant festival coordinator has a 2-year contract, so she will be back with us for next year's festival. And our sponsorship coordinator has agreed to maintain the contract the same as it is for next year. But that leaves our festival coordinator. So we're fortunate Dave LaPrey, who was the festival coordinator, is taking on increased responsibility with the town of Southington in his new role. So with that, he's had to step back from the apple harvest as the coordinator. He had a 2-year contract, but he shared with the committee that he doesn't feel he could do it justice along with all the new additional responsibilities that come that way. So with that, again, fortunately, we have 2 of our 3 people that have expressed interest in returning next year, and we'll be putting out a RFP for the festival coordinator position. So we'll be hopefully getting that back to our committee level and then bringing it ultimately to the council for approval, probably again in January.
Okay, any questions? Okay, hearing none. Item C, SHS roof update.
And this is really quick as well. We had a meeting on November 14th. So we approved the invoices and the project is pretty much closed out now. The one thing that's exciting that I wanted to share is we are moving forward with potential solar options for the roof of the high school. And we had Chris Palmer from CSW, who updated the committee on the state of Connecticut solar incentives that were changed just in October 2024. So the thought was we may even have him come to the council as a whole, just so you can hear, because it is looking much more lucrative financially for the town with these new solar incentives. So possibly we'll be looking to do that in the future as well. But right now, we're just scoping out the plans to add solar to the roof of the high school.
Excellent. Any questions on the roof update? Okay, hearing none, let's move on to the town manager's report. Board of Finance.
Thank you, Mr.
And maybe
Chairman.
just the details on what was voted on.
Yes, the board met November 13th of 2024. 2 big items of note. The first was Mr. Risser and Kevin Finkel from the Board of Education presented regarding the current state of the SHS tennis courts. And there was some money left over from the paving project that they did a years back in the front of the high school. And they had a request that they reallocate that 70,000 and change back to where they can use it for an engineering firm to go out to an RFP to actually see what they can do at the tennis courts. There's a natural gas line that kind of curves around some of the courts now, so there's a lot of work that actually has to be done. The courts aren't up to current tennis code, so you can't have tournaments there. So there's a ton of work The Board of Finance unanimously agreed to let them take that money back and apply it towards an engineering study. The other item was, it was an executive session, but it came out and voted in public session, was the police department traded in some pistols. They just upgraded their pistols this year, and they traded them up and got $20,000 and change back from the pistols. So they asked the Board of Finance if they were able to take that money, use it in conjunction with some of the money they had left over that was already approved by the Town Council and Board of Finance earlier this year regarding safety projects, and the Board of Finance unanimously agreed to let them take that $20,000 and purchase some additional sensitive items. Happy to share those with you offline. They did provide me just recently a document that kind of blacks out the non-public things that they're gonna be purchasing. So we'll get that posted. We'll, at the minutes updated, put that on there as well.
Excellent. Any questions on Board of Finance? Just for clarification, the tennis court money was about $78,000, and it's going to be for design work. So they will look at some scenarios, and the design work is so that they can go out to bid, as you mentioned. And one of the nice things that the superintendent did discuss with us, he's looking at not just the current area for the tennis courts. One of the nice things about the potential for this upgrade is that he's looking for more parking in that area and possibly shifting the tennis courts further towards the softball field, making more parking and getting some of those cars off the street that we see for sporting events all the time along Pleasant Street into a parking lot, because that's a real safety issue.
And
So we'll see if they can do that.
And currently, the tennis courts are not ADA compliant, so folks who may have had mobility issues can't see their kids or their grandkids or their friends playing, so that'll be a big portion of redoing, but to make sure you can actually get to those courts from a
Exactly.
handicapped spot without too much additional effort.
Okay. Item B, action on payroll, item B, payroll vendor contract.
So this has been something that we've been working on.
Wait, I'm sorry, could I have a question?
Yeah.
Town manager, I apologize.
Please.
Yeah, could you discuss briefly the municipal revenue sharing grant for sales tax that we're not going to get?
I could, that was in the minutes as well. It was offset by some additional funds, but
Right.
yeah, so the state of Connecticut notified us about a week and a half ago that the municipal revenue sharing grant is a grant that all the municipalities receive based upon certain metrics of sales tax in their town. So once Southington hits a certain amount of sales tax, and then the statewide hits a certain amount of sales tax, a portion of everything above that, and this is really dumbed down, and I don't have this nitty-gritty, but a portion of that gets kicked back to the local government. We budgeted in the budget that was passed this past year, $800,000 for that grant, and that was conservative. Board of Finance was kicking around 1.2 million at one point, but Mr. Bose said he thought the economy was changing a little bit, and he really wanted to lower it by a quarter, so he did lower it by to 800.
So we were expecting to get an $800,000 grant
Expecting
from the state.
1.2, we budgeted 800. They advised us that the numbers weren't coming in where they had projected, so they've cut all of those grants to all of the towns. So we're 800,000 to the bad due to that. The good news is our interest income is a little bit higher than we did project. So we're running about a $200,000 surplus right as of the Board of Finance minutes November 13.
Which could grow,
We hope to grow.
hope to grow.
So the state is not making their sales tax goals go. Is it the state that's the issue? In the sense that
That's correct.
they're not collecting enough because the economy has gone down, ergo, it doesn't get portioned out to the towns.
I don't have the nitty-gritty, but
I
that's
understand.
the memo explained that they weren't hitting their projections, and therefore the municipalities won't get their historical share, what we expected.
And that's legislation, so it can't be changed?
Correct.
Yeah, okay, thanks, appreciate it.
Which, there's a bigger story here, right? Because we also are entering the budget season. So we are almost halfway through the budget cycle that we're in today, and we are being told that the state is not going to meet the $800,000 obligation that they thought they were going to meet to Southington. So that means that we probably will have to take that into consideration when we make our next budget. I don't know how many people up here are going to feel comfortable about budgeting another 800,000 next year. So, you know, that's going to be a significant factor in our budget process. So more to come. Stay tuned.
And we did hear from the state also last week that the governor ordered all of his agencies that he controls to look for immediate long-term cuts because they believe they're going to be under budget as well.
Yeah,
Over budget.
okay.
So we are taking that into consideration with everything that we are planning on our end. We're trying to be especially lean everything that we do every single day to put the town in the best position possible, no matter what happens.
Yeah, thanks, appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, now item B, payroll vendor contract.
So this is something that the finance department's been working on, the HR department's working on, and the tech department's been working on for about 4 months now. Sue Messenger, she's been our payroll clerk and a phenomenal employee for many years. She's retiring, a well-deserved retirement. And when we started looking at how are we going to replace Sue, because she has just so much knowledge and data, we realized it probably wasn't going to be possible. And then we realized a lot of efficiencies that were not due to her, but a lot of inefficiencies, not on her end, but things that were just done the same way since John Wessell was here. Just using, we were transposing our hours from the police and fire and public works 3 times over. It would get sent to a department head. Then it would get sent from the employee to the timekeeper to the department head. That got sent to payroll, and then the payroll, Sue, would take all that information and then manually punch it into our Munis system, which would trigger our payroll. So 2 to 3 imports, manual imports. The time was significant, and also the room for errors is significant. No matter how good you are, if you're punching in the data 3 times over, there's going to be an error. This was something that the Technology Subcommittee identified early on as far as timekeeping, time tracking, and efficiencies. So we did a hard stop when it came to replacing Sue, and we said, while we replace her, let's use this as an opportunity to streamline this. The town spent almost $10,000 trying to do this through the Munis system early this year. We pay for a Munis module that's supposed to let us import our data from the police, the fire, public works, our current time clocks, and automate it. We haven't been able, our IT department and finance department and Munis have not been able to do it. So I made the determination that we were gonna stop doing that because it's been a year and we were unable to do it, and we're gonna go to just a more simpler vendor that more folks have used. We reached out to a bunch of towns and we were solicited proposals from Paychex and ADP, the 2 largest payroll vendors in the world. We originally started this project, they were, ADP was looking at $195,000 a year contract for us, and we stopped it. That was just not going to work. So we immediately brought in Paychex and we started bidding them back and forth. I tried to get this on the agenda 2 weeks ago, but I was still having them fight for the work, and they were still going back and forth and trying to lower it. We were at 80,000 2 weeks ago. Happy to report, after a ton of go-arounds, we've knocked it down to about 54 and change per year. What that includes is all of our recruiting modules. So when the person applies, they'll apply through a portal that says Town of Stellington, but it's really a Paychex portal. That data that you as an employee put in stays forever. It flows, if you're hired, it flows through the system into the payroll system, to the benefits system, so there will be no room for transposition errors as we're doing right now. It also allows us to onboard instantly. So instead of having 70 or 80 pages of paperwork that's filled, signed, and then put in a storage file somewhere, it's all done electronically, data's backed up, the town owns the data. The second portion of it, which is more important, is that we're gonna actually have some more robust timekeeping. There'll be time clocks and ways to punch in for all the staff, except police and fire, who have their own very complicated timekeeping functions. And it'll not only to bring a little bit more accountability, it makes it simpler. So I'm gonna walk in the door, I'm gonna punch in, and my time is done, and I can look at it at any time. When payroll time comes, department head or whoever's they've delegated that to can look at it. Does it look right? Paychex will flag anything that doesn't look right. You missed a punch. You punched in 20 minutes earlier than normal, something like that. And then it'll take, we're told, and we've talked to some other towns, and they confirmed, instead of a full week to run payroll, it should take 15 to 20 minutes for the new payroll clerk to run payroll. We're using that as an opportunity for the new person we hired 3 hours ago and who accepted our job, we're very excited about. She's gonna take on much more of a bigger role, working on the benefits side, and a little bit of just trying to cross over HR and the finance departments. So the ask is that you would approve the Paychex proposal that's in your packet, with a condition that I am satisfied with the police and fire departments integrations, because we are still working, they've been working full-time on this for 2 weeks, but the police have over 200 pay codes, the fire have close to that as well, and their systems are very intricate, and we need to make sure everything, when the police data goes out, they press a button, it goes directly into Paychex. It sounds very simple, but there is a lot of work to make that happen. And before we make this change, I want to make sure that this is going to be seamless. The goal is to start January 1st. They also do all the tax filing for us. W-2s, 1065, 10 something else that I know Jim Bowes always complains about. So it'll make a lot less staff as well.
Any questions for the town manager? Jen?
A couple questions, but first, I want to so what you were describing, so I understand why you would originally attempt to use the existing model. But I've dealt with this before, and you are absolutely 100% making the right decision. Because in the future, I mean, this company does this all day long. This is what they do. So when technology improves, this company will improve with it, whereas the other model won't have. Also, the data integrity, as you pointed out, is seriously important. Not only, obviously, you want to get people paid correctly, but if you get audited, that could produce some other form of payment that we would be liable for. The data security is extremely important. Having those documents not sit in paper files is really, really important. The amount of savings that this one decision will will be, I'm sure it's well beyond into the 6 figures and more over time. So I just really want to thank you for all your work that you're doing. I noticed also that you have the talent management portion. That is huge. That's going to be a huge time saver. It's going to provide so many capabilities. It's just a really exciting adjustment. And one question that I had is, with the talent management, and I'm not sure that if you know this, you can get back to me, but you're able to post jobs with Indeed. Does that also give you a subscription with Indeed, saving money in that way?
We get a reduced cost on Indeed, and it posted everywhere. We just invested in LinkedIn. It's about $1,200 a year. We have LinkedIn Professional now to try to push that out. That wasn't, but Indeed is one of the ones that it kind of gives, we get a better rate, and it just goes through there for like a reduced rate.
Okay, great. I think that was my only question.
And then just to piggyback on the 6-figure savings, it's going to save thousands of man-hours a year. I mean, there's executive assistants that spend an entire day to 2 days in every department, fire, police, public works, sewer plant. That's all they do every 2 weeks, 1 to 2 days, all day long, just putting payroll into Excels. So we're really getting 2 or 3 additional bodies for $53,000, $54,000.
And the tax filings.
And the tax
That's a
filings,
large
another
chunk, yeah.
100 hours of
Yeah.
finance department's time.
Yep. Thank you.
A couple of minor questions. So total is 54 and change, 54 grand and change. What's the annual maintenance fee after that, succeeding years?
It's 2 years, and so we were locked in for 2 years at that current.
Oh, so that's 54. Yeah,
Correct,
okay,
yes.
great. And secondly, do we get any money back from Munis? We can't use their software?
We don't have any money back from Munis. However, we do have current time clocks that we purchased 5-year agreements for just a few months ago when I first started. I was
okay.
excited to integrate that into Munis and then found out we couldn't. So Paychex, part of this package is they factored in, I demanded that they pay us
Oh, okay.
what we're paying for the time clock. So that 54 actually is reflected with like a $5,000 a year additional credit for the time clocks that we have to pay for.
Okay. Got it, thanks.
Well, we heard that we're in an $800,000 hole starting, Alex, so all of your cost savings, we're looking forward to seeing how that shakes out in the budget. Excellent. Another question? Chris.
Just one more. So, sounds like we're in great shape with everything. I know you mentioned just caution with police and fire. How many other municipalities have you reached out to? You know, because maybe there's someone, a neighboring community that has a solution for the services that our police and fire department provide and how to code it for payroll.
So Paychex works with the fire, they work with them. It's just each one is customized. So there's 2 major fire providers and there's a few major police providers. We use Telestaff for the police. Right now we use EOS for the fire. And then as of January 1st, we're using First Serve or First Something for the fire. They're switching over as well. We spoke with Wolcott, Bristol, Plymouth, Cheshire, Old Saybrook, and a few others. Everybody mixed between ADP and Paychex. So those are the 2 players that everybody had. Everybody just said they were happy. There were no complaints. Nobody said this is the greatest thing since sliced bread. They just said it works. And for something just to work would be fantastic.
So Paychex integrates with other PD and fire departments around the state?
Thousands.
Okay,
Yeah, that's great.
is that it?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, any other comments? Okay, item C, recommendation for phosphorus tank gunite repair. We heard a little bit from Tony
I'll keep
already.
it quick. Mr. Morrison already explained it. Yeah, thank you, I appreciate that. I should pay you. Three quotes. The lowest is $99,800 from PIM Corporation out of New Jersey. That is Mr. Grappone's recommendation. The top quote was $272,888 out of a firm from Massachusetts. The middle quote was $160,240. We did, like Mr. Morrison said, vet them all with references. We see no reason not to choose the lowest bidder.
Thank you. Any questions on that? Okay, hearing none. Item D, ARPA funding request for the Plantsville Safety Project.
So this one, I'm going to ask for some motions, additional motions. You have some updated memos that came via email. I do have some hard copies as well if you do need them. Good news, bad news, but it's all good news. We've been scraping the ARPA money every single day. We have till 12/31/24 to quote-unquote commit that money. We don't have to spend it, but we have to have the council and Board of Finance approve what we're going to spend the money on, have some sort of an agreement in place. As I'm not going to belabor the point, but we all know that the Plantsville Safety Project has been quite an expense. We were just awarded another $1.3 million from CROG for some cost overruns that were for some unforeseen conditions from those trolley tracks on West Main and North Main streets. We're looking, and so we're going to have about a $700,000 shortfall after all said and done. We're looking to use $287,849.35 to cover the work itself. The rest of that, a lot of the other work is police work, police private road jobs. Our finance department has guidance that we can't use ARPA money on that whatsoever. So the ask tonight is to allocate $287,849.35 to cover the full depth work on West Main Street that we'll be doing in the spring. And then the other part of that is there's a little bit more money that we were able to scrape Friday afternoon. And there's a memo I have from Mr. LaPrey, and he's asking for $46,818 broken out in 3 parts. As you know, Rec Park pool was just done. We were hoping to get the Rec Park and Memorial Park both covered with the ARPA money. However, we're a little tight on it. So since the Rec Park pool, the town just put on that brand new liner, and it's not a gunite or concrete pool, we want to make sure we get that covered. So we are asking for $27,353 for that pool. Also, the Rec Park kiddie pool pump replacement. That pump is aged, and I took my kid there this past summer. It worked great, but I'm told it's not going to work great much longer. $3,735. And then if you've been to Panthorn Park recently, the playgrounds are, they're in decent shape, but there's a couple of them that are a lot of broken things on them, and they've been there for probably 20 or 30 years when we redid them in the past. So we're looking for $15,730 to do a new playscape, and that is going to be an accessible playscape for as many people as possible that can get on there. So the ask would be to add item E to Rec and Panthorn Park ARPA money upgrades.
That would be item F for an old business, Alex?
I'm sorry, I'm looking at my E.
'Cause we added an
Let's
E
add
already.
F into old business.
Recreation and Panthorn Park.
ARPA money, ARPA fund commitments.
In Plantsville, right? You want all the ARPA?
That's already there under D.
Okay. I'll make a motion to add, under old business item F, ARPA requests for rec pool and Panthorn Park playground.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor to add item F to the agenda? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes unanimously to add it to the agenda. Any other comments for the town manager on item D? All set, Alex?
I have one more thing.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead, Jack.
thank you. So for item D, to the town manager, is it possible, so you're stating that Plantsville safety improvements are $700,000 over and above what we're going to get back in the additional funds. Is it possible for us to get an itemized breakdown of what that is and why CROG isn't, paying for it if it's, part of the project? I'm just curious if we get a breakdown on that.
Absolutely, I do have a preliminary breakdown. I'm happy to get that over to everybody.
Okay,
Thank you.
Great question. But
Thanks,
yeah,
Jack.
Yep, we did get 1.3 and change, but yeah, we're still 700 and change short.
okay, Alex, what else you got?
And then just really quick for the public and for the council, one of our 4 heating and cooling systems in the calendar house has gone down as of Friday. It is it's a 30-ton unit. We're getting quotes right now. I don't want to publicly say the quotes because I'm calling everybody I know to get a bid because I don't like the bids that I'm getting. Dawn Sargis, who was our new calendar house library director, was on vacation this week. She's still working right now to try to get this solved. It's going to be a very large dollar figure. We don't believe they were possibly installed correctly. They're out of warranty. There's solar panels on there now, so we can't reorient them very easy, how to make it. The issue is the way the winds are blowing. And I'm not an HVAC guy, but the winds are blowing, they're hitting the heating element, and it's from the inside, it's condensing, and the acidic air in there we're told is having premature corrosion. Again, there's no easy way to reorient them once we get them on because we've got solar everywhere. The other part of it, we need cranes to bring them up. But that's for me to worry about in the next few weeks. We do have an 8 to 10 week lead time, we're told, on these units right now. So we're working right now to get some temporary heat in there. As you may remember, there was some pipes freezing there when the building was done originally. They didn't insulate the ceiling properly. Right now, they do have some heating tape that goes on all the pipes, so we're not too worried. But we are right now working on getting some temporary heat, temporary heat pumps that will actually duct into the current ductwork to hopefully get us over the next 2 to 3 months. So not good news, but I just wanted the council and the public to know we are working very, very diligently to try to fix this as best as possible. And just to let you know, there will be a bill coming.
Do we have the Public Works Committee on this? I suggest that we have some
We will. It
representation
just happened,
at the committee level,
Yep. It just happened
so that we
Friday.
can dig in a little bit on this and ensure that there's
Absolutely. Yep. And we're getting as
team.
many quotes as possible, even though it's an emergency.
Okay. Any questions on that? Okay, is that it, Mr. Town Manager?
That is it. Thank you.
Okay. Moving on to item 7, the Town Attorney's Report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As the council is aware, there are numerous items that are fluid, to say the least, that I am working on with the town manager's office. I expect some reports forthcoming, but as of right now, it'd be premature to comment on any of those items. So I have no official report to provide to the council or public.
Any questions for the Town Attorney? Okay. Hearing none, we'll open it up to public communications. Is there any member of the public who would like to speak?
Erin Cole, 64 Ave. I was not planning to speak this evening, but Chairman Chaplinsky, you had asked what the general statutes that Commissioner Palmieri, or Councilor Palmieri was speaking of, and I just wanted to read them into the record, and I hope I'm getting this right. I'm not an attorney, but for 9-602, Section A, except with respect to an individual acting alone or with respect to a group of two or more individuals acting together that receive funds or makes or incurs expenditures not exceeding $1,000 in the aggregate, no contributions may be made, solicited, or received, and no expenditures, other than independent expenditures, may be made, directly or indirectly, in aid of or in opposition to the candidacy for nomination of an election of any individual or any party or referendum question unless, 1, the candidate or chairman of the committee has filed a designation of treasurer and a depository institution situated in the state as a depository for the committee's funds, or 2, the candidate has filed in a certification in accordance with the provisions of Section 9-604. In the case of a political committee, the filing of the statement of organization by the chairman of such committee in accordance with the provisions of 9-605 shall constitute compliance with the provisions of this subsection. I believe that's all that's under Section A. For 920, and the other one that was referenced was 9-621-A. No individual shall make or incur any expenditure with the consent of, in coordination with, or in consultation with any candidate, candidate committee, or candidate's agent, no group or two or more individuals acting together that receives funds or makes or incurs expenditures not exceeding $1,000 in the aggregate and has not formed a political committee shall make or incur any expenditure, and no candidate or committee shall make or incur any expenditure, including an organization expenditure, for a party candidate listing as defined in subparagraph A of subdivision 25 of section -901 for any written, typed, or other printed communication or any web-based written communication which promotes the success or defeat of any candidate's campaign for nomination at a primary or election, or promotes or opposes any political party, or solicits funds to benefit any political party or committee unless such communication bears upon its face a disclaimer, the words paid for by, and the following. In the case of such an individual, the name and the address. In the case of a committee, other than a party committee, the name of the committee and the treasurer. In the case of a party committee, the name of the committee, or in the case of a group of two or more individuals that receives funds or makes incurs expenditures not exceeding $1,000 in the aggregate and has not formed a political committee, almost done, the name of the group and the name and the address of its agent and the words approved by and the following. In the case of an individual, group, or committee, other than a candidate committee, making or incurring an expenditure with the consent of, in coordination with, or in consultation with any candidate, candidate committee, or candidate's agent, the name of the candidate, or, in the case of a candidate committee, the name of the candidate. And I believe that's what's under those two sections. So I just wanted to answer that question. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who would like to speak during public communications? Anybody else like to speak during public communications? Okay, hearing none, we'll close public communications and move on to item 9, old business. Action on report of Board of Finance.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve
Second?
and a second. Any discussion on the action of the report of Board of Finance? No discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, motion passes unanimously, 8-0. Item B, action on payroll vendor contract.
Motion to approve is presented.
Second?
We have a motion and a second to approve as presented, and I think the payroll vendor is Paychex, and the stipulation is that the town manager, if you'll consider amending it, the stipulation is that the town manager needs to be satisfied with the police department and fire department integration.
Yeah, I'll amend that, no problem.
Yep, same.
Okay, we have an amended first and a second motion. Any discussion?
Just a kudos to town staff, to the committee. I mean, finding easier, smarter ways to do things is so important. So great job, everyone involved.
Yeah, and I think that there's still a lot to come with the technology subcommittee recommendations. Really good stuff, so thank you very much.
A lot of news coming from the technology department in the next 30 days. I'm excited to share it with the council.
Oh,
So
interesting.
Stay tuned.
Excellent, thank you.
Interestingly enough, we used to work for the state of Connecticut, for the judicial branch, and up until about 6 or 7 years ago, we would have to do the same thing. In my intake assistant, we couldn't talk to her. There was one day every 2 weeks, we couldn't talk to her, because it took her 3 or 4 hours to tally everything up, and now it's so much more convenient and saves, like you said, man, woman hours, because instead of, spending 4 hours tallying attendance, a computer does it now. Good stuff.
Excellent.
That's it.
Any other comments on the payroll vendor contract? We have a motion and a second. Why don't we call the roll, Madam Clerk?
Morelli,
Yes.
Morrison,
Yes.
Palmieri,
Yes.
Perry,
Yes.
Clock,
Yes.
Del Santo,
Yes.
Dietzick,
Yes.
Chaplinsky.
Yes, motion passes unanimously 8-0. Item C, action on recommendation for phosphorus tank gunite repair. I think we're looking for a motion for the vendor to be PIM as presented. Was it 99,800?
Exactly.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion to approve in a second. Any discussion on that? Okay, hearing none. Madam Clerk, please call the roll on that.
Morelli,
Yes.
Morrison,
Yes.
Palmieri,
Yes.
Perry,
Yes.
Clock,
Yes.
Del Santo,
Yes.
Dietzick,
Yes.
Chaplinsky.
Yes, motion passes unanimously. Item D, action on ARPA funding requests for the Plantsville Safety Project.
I'll make a motion to designate $287,849.35 from the ARPA funds for the design initiated change order number 1 in regards to the West Main Street project.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion and a section for the action on ARPA funding for Plantsville Safety Project? Okay, hearing no discussion, Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Morelli,
Yes.
Morrison,
Yes.
Palmieri,
Yes.
Perry,
Yes.
Clock,
Yes.
Del Santo,
Yes.
Dietzick,
Yes.
Chaplinsky.
Yes, motion passes unanimously 8-0. And if it pleases the council, I'd like to move to item F since it's related, which is we're looking for action on the Recreation and Panthorn Park Playground ARPA funding.
Motion to approve, as mentioned, as discussed earlier by the town manager.
Second.
Right? There's no other stipulations.
We have a motion and a second as stipulated here. It's $27,353 for the pool cover at Rec Pool, $3,735 for the kiddie park pump replacement, and $15,730 for the Panthorn replacement for the playground. Total of $46,818. Any further discussion on that? Okay, Madam Clerk?
Morelli,
Yes.
Morrison,
Yes.
Palmieri,
Yes.
Perry,
Yes.
Clock,
Yes.
Del Santo,
Yes.
Dietzick,
Yes.
Chaplinsky.
Yes, motion passes unanimously 8-0. Okay, item E, the Community Relations Policy.
Yeah, so it's actually in our minutes. We still have the policy, and I know our intent. It was very clear. Paul, I looked to you. We went and visited our offices together. It was just, I think, a simple oversight. So we mentioned in the policy town operations many times, except in the introduction. What I would suggest, the opening sentence reads, "The Southington Town Council expects mutual respect, civility, and orderly conduct among all individuals in town buildings." I would suggest we add to that, in town buildings, on town property, or at any town operation. I'd also suggest in the last sentence in that opening, it says, "The town is committed to maintaining orderly administrative processes and keeping the town buildings and town offices and operations," I propose we add, "safe and free from disruptions and preventing hostile and aggressive actions." So again, I just want to bring it up because we just passed it. It's in our packet still. And I think it was just an
I'll
oversight.
second that motion, if that's a motion.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, sounds like an administrative change. I think it's consistent with our intent. Any discussion on those? Okay, hearing none, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes 8-0, so we'll make sure that that's updated and included in the next meeting minutes. Alex, revised, please. Thank you. Thanks, Chris. Okay, we'll go on to, well, right now, we're going to go on to tax refunds, right? We have that's item C. Yep.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. Okay, so tax refunds, we're looking for a motion to approve or discuss the tax refunds in the packet.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve the tax refunds that are presented in our packets.
Second.
Motion and a second. Jack, thank you for doing that from afar. We appreciate that. Any discussion on the tax refunds? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion passes 8-0 unanimously. Item B, we have appointments. The first is an appointment for a fire commissioner, one-member, 4-year term expiring November 2028.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
I
may I
have
have?
the pleasure of asking to be placed Mr. Bernard Hogan, 368 Savage Street, who's been a town resident for many years, and he was a 17-year volunteer firefighter in town. He retired, and I think he'd be an excellent candidate. We did have many excellent candidates that wanted this position, but we believe that Mr. Hogan rose to the top.
Okay, we have a motion for Bernard Hogan.
Second.
We have a second for Bernard Hogan of 368 Savage Street. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, motion passes unanimously, 8-0. Congratulations. Item number 2, we have a town manager's appointment for Parking Authority, and I think we're looking for a reappointment there.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I am reappointing Michael Riccio to another 5-year term of the Parking Authority.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Town Manager. The next item is Police Commission, one member, 4-year term expiring November 2028. That's a town council town appointment. Currently serving is Robert Triano, and we're looking for a motion to reappoint Mr. Triano.
I make that motion, Mr. Chair.
Motion?
Second that.
And a second? Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes unanimously, 8-0. Last one is a zoning board of appeals, town council appointment, one member, 4-year term expiring November 2028. We're looking for a motion for a reappointment of Mr. Bob Ives.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion about the reappointment of Mr. Ives? Okay, hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes 8-0 unanimously. Okay, item C, we're looking for discussion of the findings of the state elections. Chris, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, so I appreciate it, thank you. So the concern is, and I know we've heard at the council level, just concerns about practices related to our local elections. You know, to have the state have to get involved with an issue in town, I don't think really is best for our community. You know, I'd like to see if we could do some type of review of election procedures in town, just to ensure the highest standards are maintained in town. I don't know, I looked at the town attorney, possibly, I don't know who to do a review, but, you know, open it up to both parties to share some concerns, and just, again, looking forward to ensure the highest standards are maintained moving forward. That's the concern.
Mr. Chair, if I can very briefly on that, a couple of things. I'm not up to speed on the findings, and I apologize. I was away this weekend, so I don't know what the findings were there. I can tell you that the election laws, and as it appears to have been a citizen violated them, is a state issue. It's not a town or a municipal issue. I know from the past 3 years that the town manager, and including this year, institutes and issues a public statement to all residents, and more importantly, to voting sites, of it. They're limited to signs, and soliciting the day, election day. I know I have personally, not this year, but in previous years, had to go out to various locations and instruct people to remove signs and so on and so forth. Again, I am a little in the dark, so I don't know what the details and specific are here, but I will tell you that they are related. Generally, the enforcement and violation, including investigations, are tied directly to the state, not municipalities. I would be happy to comprise a summary of what the election laws are. One of the residents here did read a portion of the statute. I was reading along with while she was doing it. It's quite lengthy. She read section A. There's section A through E on one of them, and I believe D on the other statute. I would be happy to comprise that into a very short summary for the council and do with it what you'd like as far as publishing it or putting the public in notice what the limitations are. But I think it might be beyond the scope of what we generally get involved in.
I think it's, just to, on that topic, I think we have to be careful to not be using the town's resources to guide political groups in town on what's right and what's wrong. It is a state issue. So I would be a little concerned, Lou, about you getting too deep in that. What I would suggest is, if it's okay, maybe you reach out to the elections department. We have elections department in town, and we can ask them to put a link to the state election laws on the elections department website. I think that would probably be appropriate.
So just to clarify, and Lou, it wasn't anything to do with signs. This was about a letter that was sent, and, you know, as you heard, and I know you're following along, I have it on my computer too, but there's supposed to be annotation to denote who funded any type of mailing like that, and there wasn't with this particular mailing that was sent out. So it really had nothing to do with signage.
Okay.
It's more about what's being sent to residents. And, you know, again, I just want us to maintain the highest standards of integrity with our elections and make sure that if things are sent out, that it's noted the source of the information, you know. So it shouldn't be, a resident receiving anything shouldn't have to do research to find out, gee, is this factual or not? Where's the source? That's the concern.
Of course.
So you're saying, so what you're saying is it didn't say like paid for by XYZ person or committee or whatever it is?
Right, and
Okay.
that, basically,
Understand.
those two statutes are talking about sources of funding and communicating this, you know, the
So,
source of funding.
so that
for it.
typical stamp that's on there wasn't on there? Okay. Anything else?
Sure. I'm wondering why this is coming up now, because it has come up before.
Just speak into the
And
mic.
it has come up before, and no actions were taken. So why now? You know, I don't want to go into names of people on this dais, but, you know, we did have a case 4 years back where a councillor was accused of violating statute 9613 and was SEC, you know, smacked him on the hand, hadn't made him sign never to do it again. So this has come up before. This council at the time didn't say anything about it, didn't ask for it to, you know, be discussed. I'm wondering why this is asking to be discussed now. The SEC, and I've been a treasurer for various campaigns, so I can, you know, I can speak with some authority on this. They keep things fair, okay? And what they do is they come up with rules every year, more and more of them. If you want to see their rules, I mean, the statutes, and it's enormous. And every candidate, treasurer, whatever, has to understand all these, and mistakes are made. You know, they're made all the time. They're usually paperwork mistakes, like these seem to be. And are we to say, you know, are we to put somebody up there in the papers, put somebody up on this dais to say, because they made a mistake, that's, you know, that they should be sort of pilloried in this fashion? I would say not. You know, we've had a record of not doing that with SEC complaints, and I think we should continue in that fashion.
So just
Anybody else?
just to respond to Tony, as I stated, I'm bringing it up because it was in the local paper on Thursday, November 21st, so it was last week, and it was in the Citizen this weekend, and we've
Same
received...
paper.
I understand.
I wonder how he
It was
got
in
it.
both. Many
Excellent
residents
paper.
received it.
Pulitzer, stop. Record Journal.
Did they get a press release or what?
Joke.
No, I don't think this was a press release. It was, I mean, you can contact the staff
Article,
right.
big article, under the fold.
You know, I'm trying to take it seriously, and I'm sensing there's a little belittling to it, and again, I'm trying to take it seriously.
Because if we're
And
gonna,
Tony-
if we're gonna have the state settle this, like they did in Bridgeport with women stuffing ballots, I mean, where are we gonna go with this? Okay, this, I think what the allegation of the person that didn't stamp the letter that went out, I don't think is as egregious as some of the other, abnormalities that have happened throughout the state of Connecticut. So I agree with Tony, I'm not sure why this is coming up now. I mean, I know you want us to go ahead and, be ethical going forward and not make mistakes. We're all human, we make mistakes.
Okay.
So,
So
I
we,
agree, I think we should all be ethical going forward and make sure we put the little stamp on, paid for by SRTC, treasurer, so-and-so.
as an outcome of this discussion, is there any other motions, Chris? Did you have anything that you wanted to
Not-
motion?
Not at this time.
Okay. This will be, where we won't bring this one up again, so this is going to be our time. If there's something that you or your caucus want to see here, now's the time to do it, because we won't put it on another agenda.
Paul, as I stated at the beginning, I believe there's a continuance at the state level.
Good.
So if there should be anything more as a result of the state ruling, then yes, I may move forward at that time. But right now, there is nothing further until they make their final ruling.
Excellent.
Motion to adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed?